What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about the second season of the television show Severance. And if you watched recently, I released my review for the first season because I am new to this show. I think I started watching the first season when like episode 5 or 6 of this season aired, and I raved and ranted about the first season of that show and how much I loved it. One of my favorite pieces of media I have watched in quite some time. And so when the second season started, it was already several episodes in, but I was highly anticipating where this show would go. And I'm going to talk about it with you today. So if you have not seen the first season of Severance, my description leading up to what I'm talking about is going to spoil a whole bunch of stuff from the first season. I'm going to try to keep the spoilers for the second season at a minimum in case you haven't watched it yet. But for the first season, I'm going to spoil a whole bunch about the show. So if you've never seen Severance, just stop the video right here and go watch it. And then you can come back and watch my review after you've seen the second season of the show. So in the second season of Severance, at the very end of the first season, the innies took over the outies for a brief period of time through this protocol that they found. Dylan was able to like flip this switch and cause the innies to take over their outies bodies in the outside world. And we got to learn little bits and pieces of information about our three characters, including that Helly is Helena Egan, who is the child of the founder of the company. We learned from Mark's character that his wife Gemma is actually Miss Casey, who worked in the wellness department, and she's not dead. She's trapped in the Lumon facility. And we learn Irving's character at his apartment is drawing these pictures of this long black hallway with an elevator. He lives in solitude by himself, but we see through little bits of information that he's collecting data about people that work for Lumon. So we got little bits and pieces of information at the end of the first season. Well, we jump into the second season and the innies are back at work. The company isn't coming down hard on them. Lumon doubles down and says like, oh, we didn't realize that we were mistreating these employees and doing all these negative things. And the members of this department, they're heroes. They stood up and said, we need to have better rights for these employees and take care of them more. You can just see that kind of shift in the company in a way that was incredibly comical, and I loved how they introduced that element. And seemingly, they just go back to work. It's business as usual for Lumon with some things that they've changed for the company. And so most of the season is the innies of these characters trying to find out what they're doing for work. What is this process that they're accomplishing, and what are the goals of Lumon as a company? Whereas the outies in this season, Mark's character, now realizing that his wife is alive, wants to try to figure out how can he save her from inside of this company? Like, what can he do? Because as soon as he hits the elevator, he can't remember anything that happens. And then Irv's character ended up on Bert, played by Christopher Walken's doorstep at the end of the first season, and he starts to go visit him, and they start to have conversations, and we learn a little bit more about Bert's character. And then now that Helena Egan is very aware that Helly, any version of herself, does not want to be down there, it's sort of this internal conflict with her character and seeing if she can manipulate the innies, possibly, because of the sympathy that her innie has provided, the outie version of herself. And we just explore these characters more in depth and try to figure out what Lumon has in store for these people as a whole. So I was super excited to watch the second season of this show, and I will say without a doubt, this is one of the best shows put on TV in years. This is just remarkable writing, cinematography, performances, musical score. Everything about this TV show is what makes an incredible TV show. And I was completely floored by several episodes throughout this season. I just think it is so remarkably done. And what I really like about this show is how much subtle foreshadowing there is through just the littlest things here. You might miss it if you look away for a second, and then it comes back around. And I think that there's so much in the finale of this show and the second season that's foreshadowing what's going to happen in future seasons, which is something that I really appreciate. But I want to start with one of the best things about this season, which is the performances. Would really like Adam Scott to win an Emmy for this show. I cannot get over the commitment to his performance, just how incredible he was in all of these episodes, especially the finale of this season. There were some moments that I was just completely and totally in awe of how great of an actor he is. And he really was just delivering and delivering again and again and again. And he's just a really special talent. And I think for so long he's been known for this one particular thing with Parks and Recreation, and I'm so glad to see him really get an opportunity to just showcase the very wide range of his acting abilities. Also, the other big standout in this show for me is John Turturro. I loved him in this season, and his chemistry with Christopher Walken just phenomenal. The entire plot arc between those two characters was just so well written and in depth, and I really loved the direction that it went. It answered some questions while also leaving enough to be explored that they can do more seasons, because I think Ben Stiller has said initially that they have kind of like a 4-season plan for this show overall, and that excites me because like where the season went in the final episode, there are so many different directions that this could go, and I'm really happy about that. I also really enjoyed Britt Lower's performance in this season. She was phenomenal. Every single time she's on screen, especially in the earlier episodes when you're trying to discern Helly or Helena, just like her facial expressions and the way that she reacts to situations, just truly an incredible actress. I loved whenever she was on screen. And I could go through each and every person in this show that's just phenomenal. I mean, Patricia Arquette, Zach Cherry, Tramell Tillman. I could go through the entire list of characters in this, and just all of them are great. There is not a bad actor or actress in this entire show, and it's really what keeps it so captivating. Second, the cinematography in this is remarkable. It does not look like a television show. It looks like a movie. It looks like a big budget Hollywood movie. And the 7th episode of this season, just one of the most remarkable things I've ever watched on TV. Just the learning about the cinematography and what the director of the episode, who is also the cinematographer of the show, did to keep so much of it practical. As someone who went to film school and who appreciates cinematography, I was just completely and totally blown away by what they pulled off visually in that 7th episode. And that's not to take away from the other episodes of the season, because they really just do a phenomenal job overall with the visuals in the show. And I was completely captivated each and every episode. And the score to this show has become one of my favorite things. I listen to it very regularly. The music just accompanies the tone so very well, and I love it so much. And what I like about this season is just the way that it dives into Lumon a bit more, and just like continuing the dissection of corporate America and corporations in general, and like how they shift in such a seedy and evil way to adapt to like public scrutiny. And I loved the beginning of this season and just the way they changed things and tried to act like we were self-aware of this the entire time, and it just took these wonderful employees standing up and fighting back against us to make change. And I really love all of the societal commentary there, and just looking at the severance procedure and how realistic that could be as something that would actually be offered to people. But I also loved this season when it came to the relationships between innies and outies, and kind of like the internal struggle with these characters of like realizing there's an entire other version of their self that's alive and that is having a lived experience that they know nothing about, and what would it look like if those worlds bled together. And I think the show is going in a really interesting direction, and there's so many different avenues it could go, because when you look at what they're trying to do with this procedure, I think about like, you know, for most of these people, it's unlocking a version of themselves that is better than their current lived version. Like if you think about Helly and who she is on the outside, the version of Helly that's the innie is good in nature and just wants what's best and is like fighting for the right things. And I think that it's interesting to think about the severance procedure in a way that like they could unlock it to kind of merge together these consciousnesses to create a better version of a person, and to kind of like put the best version of yourself out there. And I think there's all these really interesting things that the show can do and examine, and I really like that. And I love just thinking about this show and analyzing it, and I just thought the final episode was incredibly satisfying and gut-wrenching, and it just left a lot of questions that I think will be very interesting when they're explored in the 3rd season. Like I said, one of the best things I've watched on television in a long time. If you have not seen this, please do yourself a favor and watch it, because it is incredible. So have you seen the second season of Severance? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this was one of the best seasons of television I have watched in a very long time, and I already can't wait for the third season. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.